What's up, guys? My name is Greg. Today we have a couple different games for you. Each game is going to incorporate similar skills that we're going to build on as we go. The skills we're going to use are balancing, so we're going to balance an object either in the palm of our hand or on some sort of racket if you have one, like a tennis racket or badminton racket, something like that. Also, we're going to be working on our locomotive skills. So we're going to do things like slide stepping and galloping in open space, and then also around some obstacles. And then at the end, in our final game, we're going to practice an underhand roll, so kind of like a bowling skill at the end. But before we get into all of that, we're going to need to go through a little warm-up here to get our bodies nice and loose and ready to play, okay? So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright guys, so first warm-up exercise here is going to be for our shoulders. So we're going to take our shoulders, we're going to pick them up, bring them kind of close to our ears, and then we're going to roll them backwards and let them fall back down to where they started. So up, roll back, and then down. Do about 10 of these. Good, that was about 10. Now we're going to go forward with another 10 here. And one more, 10, good. Now we're going to go with some arm circles next. So nice and big going forward. Again, about 10 of these. Good. Now we're going to go backwards, nice and big still. Good. Now let's try some little ones going forward. Some nice and small, hands straight out from our shoulders. And backwards. All right, relax your arms. Now we're gonna do a cherry picker stretch. So we're gonna spread it out our feet here, outside our shoulder width, so it should be pretty wide. We're gonna start standing up nice and tall. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna bend at the waist. We're gonna touch the ground in front of our toes, and we're gonna do 3 taps. 1 in front of our toes, 1 in the middle, and then 1 behind our heels. After those 3 taps, we're standing back up to this position, and we're gonna clap our hands, okay? So it's gonna go 1, 2, 3, up, clap. All right, so let's do about 10 of those, all right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 2 more, 1, 2, 3, 9, 1, 2, 3, and 10. All right, our next warm-up is going to be some easy air squats. So we're going to bring our feet just a little bit closer than they were for those cherry pickers, and we're going to do 10 easy squats, nice and steady pace here. Nice and controlled, so sitting back like we're in a chair, and standing back up. Let's do about 5 more. One more. Good. Take a little break here. The next exercise we're going to do is just a hop in place. So we're going to do just like this. Just a little bit of a knee bend and then jumping straight up, okay? Do about 10 of those. Ready? And go. last one. Good. All right. Last two warm-ups here. The next one we have is just regular jumping jacks. So we're gonna knock out 10 of those. Ready? And go. 7, 8, 9, 10. Nice job. All right. Last warm up here. We're just gonna sit here and jog in place for 30 seconds. Ready, and here we go. Got 5 more seconds. And 3, 2, 1, relax. All right, so our first game is gonna be working on balancing an object while moving in a straight line. So for this one, we'll need a good amount of space. I would say give yourself about 15 big steps from like a starting spot to an ending spot. Once you have that, you'll just need some sort of ball. Pretty much anything will work, just something that you could balance in your hand. If you're balancing in your hand, you can also balance on a racket or something like that. So if you had a tennis racket or a badminton racket, you would just balance the object on the racket. If we're balancing on our palm, we want to make sure that we're not cheating using our fingers to kind of hold the ball. We're gonna make our hand nice and big, spread out as much as we can, and we're gonna let the ball sit right on our palm, okay? So right on that meaty part of our hand. And we're gonna walk around kind of like this. All right, so once you got that and you're ready, I'll get set up and I'll show you what it'll look like. All right, so here's my space that I marked out. You can see my stool down there. Pretty much 15 big steps is about the distance that I used. When we walk with our ball, we're gonna wanna hold it just like this on the palm of our hand, and then we're gonna let our elbow come out in front of our side just a little bit, just so that it's a little more challenging to keep the ball in the center of our hand, all right? And now we're just gonna start out just by walking one lap down to your end and then coming on back. We'll see if we can do that without letting the ball drop, all right? So let's see how it looks. Ball is out. All right, so that was pretty easy, just walking straight. It was pretty simple to balance. So now we're gonna change it up just a little bit and we're gonna do a slide step. So basically a slide step is with our feet out, kind of like when we were doing our squats, right around shoulder width. We're gonna bend our knees so we're like in a half squat, and we're gonna push off one side and step with the other. So push and step. This side pushes, this side steps, okay? So same thing with our hands, still balancing the palm. We're gonna slide step down to our end, and we're gonna face the same direction on the way back, okay? That way both legs can get a chance to lead your direction. So it looks something like this. Balance, knees are bent, and we're slide stepping. Okay, if the ball happens to fall while you're moving around, just pause where you're at, grab your ball, and then pick up where you left off, okay? So we're gonna do one more movement in a straight line like this. This is going to be the galloping. So kind of like if you're mimicking riding a horse, one leg is out in front, the other side is kind of the push leg. We push and we step, and now we're moving forward, okay? Show that one more time here. So this is the lead leg, this is our push leg, pushing, and we're stepping just like that, all right? So same thing, down to our end and back. Let's see. All right, so we made it through that one. So what you could do is you could go back and do the same 3 motions, now practicing with your other hand, okay? So it might be a little bit more challenging if you started with your dominant hand, your writing hand. So if you're right-handed, it'll be your right hand, and then go into your non-dominant. So for most people, their left hand. So we're gonna pause here, and we're gonna set up for our next game. All right, so now for our next round, I've introduced a couple different obstacles here. So for obstacles, what we can use, I use some chairs, some garbage cans would also work, just other objects that you have lying around that are pretty big in size so that you can see them easily, and they give you kind of a challenge to move around. So we're gonna keep our same movements. We're gonna start with walking just like that first round, and we're gonna maneuver around each of our obstacles and then come on back, still balancing our ball in the same way that we were before, okay? Let's give it a shot. So with these obstacles, it creates an extra challenge for us because now instead of being able to watch the ball that we're trying to balance, we need to have our eyes up so we can find our obstacle and maneuver around it, okay? So really important to keep your eyes up watching the obstacle so that you're not tripping over it or anything like that, okay? All right, so next, we're gonna go with our next motion, which was the slide stepping. So same thing, going around each obstacle that we have put out, balancing the ball in our dominant hand still, okay? Ready? All right, so going through the obstacles one more time now with our third movement, which was the gallop step. Same thing, balancing in our palm still. Ready. All right, so we went through our obstacles now using all 3 of those movements. For that gallop step, that last one that we were doing, it would be a good idea to go through twice. That way you can give a chance for both legs to lead. So maybe one time going through, you have your right leg in front, and the second time through, you go and have your left leg in front. Also, you can run through each of those 3 movements again, like we did in that first round, using your opposite hand. So whichever one you didn't use the first time, using that hand for the second time. Next, we're gonna have our final game, and we'll get set up for that. All right, so this is gonna be our final game. We're gonna keep our obstacles out there. Everything set up is the same. The only thing that we're gonna add is a couple mock pins. So basically, anything that you have that stands upright. I have these big water bottles that I'm gonna use. A cone would work. Something like that that's kind of shaped like a bowling pin, because that's essentially what we're going to be doing is one bowl at the end of our game here. Okay, so I have 3 these water bottles. You can grab as many as you want. I would say maybe more than 3 is better than less. That way you can go through a couple more rounds. So what we're going to do is, with our pins, we're going to place them at our starting line. So I'm going to put them right around here on the floor. Each time I go up and down, I'm going to pick up 1 pin, use my whatever locomotive movement I'm using, walking, sliding, or galloping. We're going to make our way to the end, and we're going to drop our pin at the end of our course there. So we're going to go through until we have all of our pins that we chose set up down at the end, and then we're going to finish by rolling our ball and trying to knock down our pins, okay? So if once you get to the end, you roll the ball towards your pins and you miss, or maybe you only knock 1 or 2 of them down, then feel free to go chase down your ball, come back to the starting point, and try a few more rolls, as many as you need to knock down all those pins, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go through this first round just walking. We're still balancing the ball in our hand just like we've been doing. I'm gonna have 1 pin in my hand to start, and we're going. All right, I just made it through my obstacles. I got my pins set up down there. Now I'm gonna try my underhand roll and try to knock all those pins down. All right, so we're gonna run through that game one more time. We're gonna just change it up just a little bit with our rules. So now I have 3 different pins. So each time I come back to get a pin, I'm gonna use a different locomotive movement, okay? So with my first pin going down, I'm gonna be walking. When I come back and get my second pin, I'm gonna be slide stepping. And then for my third pin to set up, I'm gonna be using the galloping step that we did, okay? So everything else is the same with our hands. You can switch hands if you want that extra challenge, and it'll look like this. All right, so that concludes our games. We went through a lot of stuff today. We learned how to balance an object away from our body. We went over a couple different locomotive movements. We were walking, we were slide stepping, and then we were galloping. We went through all of those, going in open space with no obstacles, going through obstacles, and then while holding 2 objects at a time. We also incorporated our underhand roll at the end of that last game, which you'll see in sports like bowling mostly. Bocce is another one that uses that. And we also worked on our coordination skills, because in that last game we had to manage 2 objects while still moving around obstacles. So that definitely takes a lot of coordination. Hope you guys enjoyed all these games, and thanks for playing.